So our next presenter is Stuart McClure, CEO of Cylance. He's going to talk about AI, the future of security.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, my name is Stuart McClure, and don't have any slides, so I'm just going to walk you through sort of what I have been asked to talk about, which is really the future of security and how you can apply artificial intelligence and machine learning to it. So I am a recovering cybersecurity executive myself. I was the global CTO for an antivirus company, the largest in the world for some time. And I often joke when I was traveling around, I'd go everywhere, pretty much every igloo and wiki up and hut around the world to basically do one thing: apologize. Apologize for missing an attack, or apologize for systems, resources getting completely destroyed because of the product itself, the very product that's supposed to be protecting them. And quite frankly, it was exhausting, yeah? Especially because as I would go throughout my career, I've been doing this about 30 years now, IT and security, I would always get asked. I was also author of a book called Hacking Exposed. It's in 7, 8 editions, translated around the world many times over. And I would always get the same exact question. They'd be like, okay, Stu, you're this hacker dude. You must be a big target. People want to hack you. So what do you use to protect your computer? And I'd have to sheepishly admit, I don't use anything. And so here I am, global CTO for this company. And it's usually the head of worldwide sales is sitting right there usually when I get that question, right, for this company, where I have to kind of explain, but I'm not 99% of the world. I know what not to do on a computer, and most don't. So as I started to continue to answer this question the same exact way, because it was 100% true, I started to think to myself, wait, why can't we program a computer to think like that? I mean, it's not like I'm some, boil the water looking at it genius, right? I just know more than what other people know. So when I started this company, Cylance, in 2012, I wanted to solve a really big problem, and this was the problem. How can I make a computer smart enough to beat the bad guys, to prevent an attack that it's never before seen in its life, right? Now, the industry as a whole is broken in one fundamental way. The only way to detect whether or not something is bad is if they've seen it in the past. It's sort of like the only way to know that the person that's walking up to your door right now at your house is going to burglarize you is because you've seen their mugshot in some America's Most Wanted, or you've gone through police station and you've seen it because you've seen that person burglar another house. It's the only way to know, right? Now, what if you could actually determine that this person that's come to your home has a 99% confidence that they will burglar your house if you let them in? That's effectively what we're able to do, okay? Now, artificial intelligence and really truly machine learning, to me, is the only hope for security, cybersecurity, and maybe for physical as well down the road. So that's what we set on our path to do. And a year after starting the company, we were able to get our first mathematical model. And I thought I'd died and gone to heaven, because here I was in charge of about 2,000 security analysts at this company, my former company, and all they did all day long was they wrote signatures. Signatures are just like descriptions of things that are found to be bad. It would be like, well, burglars usually have hooded masks, and they wear black, and they come at night, and these are signatures, these are descriptions, right? It's the only way that we could detect it. And here I had 7 data scientists, and we were able to double the efficacy of the entire industry with these 7 data scientists. And to me, I thought, okay, this is it, man. This is the way, whether it be us as a company or anyone else that wants to be a fast follower. The application of machine learning and AI into this space will probably save us. So as I go through and try to explain a lot of this, I usually start with, okay, so we apply math to the problem of security, and that's when everybody goes to sleep, right? Usually that's where people nod off, because math is an intimidating concept. Most people don't really like it. Breaks out into hives, right? So I don't really talk about math so much. I simply talk about the predictability that all of us have natively inside our brains. The way we think, we predict without you even knowing it. So I'm going to do a quick exercise to help describe this. Now, I've never done this exercise before, so we're going to wing this, and if it bombs, you can hook me, John. So yeah, you'll like this.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so who has like a pad to write with, or maybe okay, perfect. So I'm going to tell Bob, hey Bob, Stuart? Okay. So I'm going to tell Bob something. He's going to write it down, and then I'm going to tell you a little story. And then I'm going to ask you, the audience, a question. Natural next question. Okay, and we'll see how this goes. Okay, so hold on. Got that? Yep. Okay. So I usually also start on a personal note to tell you that I grew up in Guam. Has anybody even heard of that island? Okay. Most people think about it as you go there to, you go to get punished, basically, right? But so my dad moved myself, my mom, and my sister to Guam when I was just little, like 2 years old, and I lived there for about 8 or 9 years. So what's the natural next question you want to ask me? Anybody want to volunteer?
Was your dad in the military?
Right. Perfect. Now, how do I know that, right? Because I've said that same tee up 20,000 times, and 20,001 times I've gotten that natural question. It's a natural question. So now I can predict it, even though I've never met you, don't know anything about you, right? This comes from simply learning. And now the software algorithms that can be deployed for this kind of solution are there today. It's been used in many, many other industries. So for example, the insurance industry with actuarial science, that's all they do anymore. They ask you a few questions, they give you a policy price, and you're on your way. High-frequency algorithmic trading, right here in this zip code. That's all machine learning, artificial intelligence. Even human genome sequencing, knowing how much of my heritage is Scottish versus Irish versus anything else. That's all simple math and learning algorithms. So for all of those of you in the room that are so inclined, look at some of the techniques and technologies that are starting to come out using artificial intelligence and machine learning, because it is our best hope, certainly for cybersecurity and probably for many, many more applications. So with that, I'll leave it for questions. You can ask me too. The truth is no, actually. My dad was not in the military. He moved out there when I was young. He got a job in Guam building economic development in the islands, and that was it. He was retired, though, Navy.
He's right with that, so there is a military connection.
There is a military connection, but
so his network included military clients in Guam.
Well, he had never been to Guam before. He was in Korea for Korean War. Never been there before. He got recruited by Arthur Anderson when he was in his late 20s, early 30s. He was the head of HR for Times Mirror at the time, actually. So they actually recruited him to go out there and help with economic development. He had his MBA, et cetera.
All right. Well, did you have a lot of fun in Guam?
I learned how to run really, really fast because you get beat up real quick if you don't. If you look at anybody in the eyes, you're done for. So I learned how to do that real fast. Yeah.
How do AI algorithms distinguish between the administrator of a system and, in other words, how do AI algorithms recognize authority in that they could be using their learning tools to serve someone besides the administrator on a system? Right.
That's sort of, at the heart of that question is what I call identity. Like, how do you really define that you're just a user, I'm an administrator,
right,
and that a computer would follow me and not you, or you are not me, right? Some different role. And so this is the quick and dirty answer, is right now the technology that we have gets trained on 2 data sets, okay, good and bad. So malware, viruses, and just good files like whatever comes from Microsoft, Adobe, things like that. In that scenario, what we can do is train on n number of data sets. So if you get enough data, so enough samples of data, plus enough features of each of those samples, That's where the math is perfect. It creates this natural separation or gravitation of certain features to certain sides of the spectrum. So for this scenario, it would be training two roles, user and administrator. We would look and watch everything that you would do for a period of time, and we would look and watch everybody as the same user in the same role as much as we possibly could. The computer would then tell us which behaviors are most predictive of a user versus most predictive of an administrator. And you get a large enough data set of features of things that you do on the computer, and you can actually do that too. You can actually determine that you're John and I'm Stuart, and I can't use your computer.
Although it sounds as though all you need to do to hack into a system like that is essentially, in software terms, as a burglar, just take off your ski mask. That basically, if you can adopt the identity of an administrator and fool the algorithm, you're in.
To a human, yes, because there's so few. But for example, our feature set is 15 million features of a standard file. Like if you sent me a PDF to open up, right? Want me to see something. We map to 15 million features on that file that are truly predictive, mathematically predictive of good or bad. Now, statistically, there's over 4 trillion features that can be extracted from a PDF. Now, forget about the data part, just the structure of the PDF itself. So by learning as many different features as possible, now I can't even describe to you, well, you take off one feature. No, you'd have to take off probably 2/3 of those features, and then it becomes a totally different beast. So it's very, very difficult when you get large data sets like that.
How do you handle false negatives?
So false negatives are, you're basically screwed. I mean, for all intents and purposes.
Yes, I win.
You win.
All right.
Well, and I must always preface that by saying, look, security is not 100%. There is no such thing. I mean, for anybody to believe that we can ever get there is, it's certainly going to be way past my lifetime. I mean, there's just no such thing. However, what we do is we track everything that happens on the system. So if for whatever reason we do miss it, we can take that data and learn back and improve the model again. So
but
it's an iterative process.
how quickly can you do that iteration? Because in the false negative universe, if you can't control for false negatives and you aggregate errors up the system and you add more and more data, you're developing infinite no-fly lists where everyone in the United States is on a no-fly list at a certain point, and you have to get them off.
There's 2 ways that you can do that. Number one, if you take the foundational element of whatever it is, functional area of the system that is happening in that false negative, and there's usually a foundational element, like for example, script control. So sometimes a false negative uses script control, or scripts rather. If you can control a script, now that tends to be a little bit like, dropping napalm on an itch, right? So it just blows everything out. That's certainly one way you could do it, but we have an alternative.
Don't have a lot of experience with napalm.
Yeah, right. I
don't.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I would have to imagine, right?
Yeah.
But the other way is we use a mathematical clustering algorithm called centroids, and those can happen within seconds. So given the data on very, very few features, we can just have it literally based on 10 features. We can build centroids. Now the features have to be truly unique, and a centroid then statistically clusters to those limited features. Then we can test very quickly against our large corpus of good and our large corpus of bad and make sure that we're inclusive of what we think it is. And that can happen in seconds and get pushed out.
So if you're stopped at I'm sorry to use the airport example. It's kind of primitive, but it's very familiar. So if you get stopped at an airport and it says you're on a no-fly list, your centroids would be able to, if it is a false negative, quickly determine that, you shouldn't be on the list, and not only allow the passenger to pass, but also remove them from the list at the same time.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. That's officially, I think, what you're talking
about.
It's a
good
false
feature.
Positive, but yes,
it's the
same scenario, same exact scenario.
Right.
We can build centroids for false positive reduction and for false negative reduction.
Right. Stuart, thanks so much.
All right, thank you.